So we got chapter 1 of the long-awaited new manga by the author and creator of Kuroko no Basket. Now, there's a lot of high expectations coming into this series to begin with. Name of the manga is Robot X Laser Beam. Now, that title alone just kind of sounds like Robot X Laser Beam. You're immediately thinking like, oh, there's going to be robots and fighting and shit. So the name alone is a little bit like, oh, misleading a bit there, huh, buddy? But nevertheless, the series finally came out. And honestly, from what I've been seeing on forums and different things, a lot of people aren't messing with this one. A lot of people did not like the first chapter. I give you a brief idea of the synopsis based on the first chapter of what it's about, and then we'll talk a little bit more. So essentially, the main character, his nickname is Robo because his personality is that of a robot. He doesn't understand jokes, so think of like a Sai from Naruto type of deal where he just kind of is very stiff, doesn't understand things. He was made fun of when he was younger and in school, but he was so much of like a robot, so to speak, and so much of a stiff that he didn't even understand what was going on. And when he did understand, oh, so I'm being made fun of, it didn't really bother him. So he kind of had the deal of like people picked on him and stuff for his personality, but again, it didn't really bother him that much. It wasn't like this tragic, oh my gosh, you know, he was picked on and bullied in school, because he just didn't even understand enough to give a shit. And when he did, it was like, oh, okay, I'm being picked on. He has a friend named Tomoya, and his friend is interested in golf because he heard like, hey, you could go pro and there's prizes and all that good stuff, but he sucks at golf. His friend is absolute trash at it. He doesn't know the difference between, you know, different golf clubs. And to be fair, majority of people that go into this don't really know much about golf. We know you hit the ball into the hole, and that's pretty much it. I mean, golf in and of itself isn't really that big of a mainstream sport as far as for like younger people. Obviously, there's the Tiger Woods, and I'm sure there's a ton of people that like golf, but personally, I don't know one person that is like of my age at the very least that is into golf. A lot of people just aren't into that. So alone the premise can kind of be a little bit of a like push away, like, oh, I don't know, golf or whatever. To be honest with you, after reading this first chapter, you know, based on what went down, essentially, again, giving a little more synopsis, the main character, Robo, he doesn't understand golf or whatever, but eventually one thing leads to another and he tries it, and he's amazing. Like, he's a straight up prodigy. He's in the golf range and he's hitting the balls and almost hitting hole-in-ones like every time. Like, he's getting that damn close in the first time he picks up a golf club. So the dude is pretty nasty at golf and seemingly doesn't have any experience. So with that being said, you know, he kind of impresses a couple of people and he's on the radar now of like, yo, this dude is good at golf, but he doesn't really give a shit about it, and he has really no interest in it as of right now at the very least. I mean, the lead up in the chapter was pretty cliche in a sense. It's like his friend was in trouble, so he jumped in to show people like, oh, okay, you know, my friend isn't all that bad or whatever, because his friend used to help him when he was being bullied and shit, and that's why he picked up the golf club to begin with. Now, some of the character designs, definitely some reuses that we've seen in Kuroko no Basket. I mean, the main character kind of looks a little bit like Midorima from, you know, Kuroko no Basket, the dude with the green hair that I believe he had like the sick 3-point shots that he could do. He kind of looks a little bit like him in a way, or he kind of looks a little bit like that other guy in Jump with the glasses and the pink hair. He looks similar to that, but I think he has brown hair, whatever. So that character design is kind of a reuse. And then there's another character that looks straight up like Aomine, like a mix of Aomine and maybe a little bit of Kagami, but mainly like Aomine, and he seems to be like he could potentially be the main character's rival at some given point, but it was also setting that up. The first chapter, putting it blunt, it was okay, but I think because everybody has such high expectations, because a lot of people loved Kuroko. I personally marathoned the shit out of Kuroko. I think the first season was already out and a bit of the second season, and I went straight through and marathoned everything. So I really loved Kuroko. I mean, it wasn't the greatest series in the world, but for a sports series, and I'm not that big into sports anime or whatever, I love the shit out of it, and it helped me to get into other series like Haikyuu and many different cool sports series, whatever. So I think coming into this one with the expectations of it's going to immediately match Kuroko, wrong mindset, because you're going to be very disappointed. The first chapter, honestly, it does play off of a lot of cliches. Main character, he's, you know, stiff or whatever, which brings me to a quick discussion. I know Shonen Jump, they don't really like to have their main characters kind of be in that way, which the main character in essence kind of is somewhat like Kuroko, except Kuroko was just like, his little quirk was that, you know, he was unnoticeable, he didn't really talk too much. This guy is a straight stiff and doesn't understand jokes, so in that regard it's kind of similar, whatever, but it also makes me think like, How long will they let this last? I mean, I know he has a big name coming fresh off of Kuroko after a couple years, so they're gonna give him a chance. But, you know, with Shonen Jump, they want their main characters to be similar to like a Goku or Luffy, so it's gonna be interesting to see how much or how long they allow this thing to go, assuming it doesn't get an immediate rocket start of people just jumping into it. Another thing is the golf aspect. To be honest with you, I've never in my life given a slither of a fuck about golf. I never had any interest in it. The first chapter kind of had me a little bit, just a tad bit peaked of like, okay, this kind of seems interesting the way they're showcasing it. I noticed as well they explain a lot of different things because they know that people don't know golf like that, so that's another thing where we're gonna have to sit through a lot of explanations because people just genuinely don't know about golf. I mean, he did it a bit with Kuroko as well. He explained things for people that don't know about basketball, but I'd imagine golf is gonna go that extra mile that you know, people just don't know about it. So that was another thing. And honestly, again, coming into this one, keep your expectations very low, because if you have any type of expectations of it just coming in on some Kuroko shit, again, you'll be disappointed because it was just okay. I'll check back on it like, I don't know, 20, 30 chapters from now and see where it goes. But that first chapter is not going to knock anyone's socks off because it wasn't really all that impressive. Again, played off a lot of different cliches. I'm kind of curious how much relevance the main character's friend Tomoya is going to have. It seems as though there's potential for them to have Tomoya being the one that has to really struggle to get better and get good, similar to like a Yugi Moto and Joey Wheeler. Like his friend will be like the Joey Wheeler trying to get good, and he's pretty much, you know, Robo is incredible. He's a prodigy, which that's another discussion that I've seen. People are saying, what interests are people going to have if he's just absolutely a god at golf in the beginning? Because in this chapter, like, he picks up the golf club for the first time and he's amazing. Like, you know, he's hitting it out the park. There is some, you know, room for different things that they can do, because if you're at a golf range, you're straight in front of the hole, right? Like, you know, you just straight up. When you're on a golf range, it's a bit of a difference. You know, you can be somewhere over there and you got to hit it over the hills. So there is room for him to not just be incredible when he's actually playing golf in a real setting and it's not just at a golf range. So there's room for that as well, but I definitely see it being the case that the main character Robo is going to be incredible. He will have some hardships as well, but ultimately he'll be incredible, and possibly they could play off Tomoya trying to get good and trying his best to join the golf club, because at the end of the first chapter, they still haven't joined the golf club, so they still haven't really, you know, set things up. It was mainly just to showcase what these characters are about, what this world we're about to embark on is, and just kind of the story we're about to get into. And to be honest with you, it's like, yeah, it was a cool first chapter, but it's not really something that hooks you in immediately. I just thought it was okay, and again, I guess to its merit, it made me care slightly about golf, so there's that. But yeah, it's not all that with the first chapter at the very least. Check back in like 20 or 30 chapters is what I'd say to see what it's doing, and I think Jump will give this guy a pass for a while, let it build up, because he had such a big name behind him. I'm kind of curious, if you haven't read this manga, let's start off with the people that haven't read it. Does the idea and the theme of golf, the setting itself, just completely push you away and you're just like, I can't check this out about golf? I mean, there's a lot of people that they, you know, couldn't get into volleyball. They thought like, oh, I'm not gonna watch a volleyball series, and then Haikyuu blew up. Same thing with even, you know, basketball. I mean, basketball is a little bit more mainstream, but there's a lot of people like, I don't want to read about basketball, and look at Kuroko. So there is room for even a series that seems mundane like golf to do something interesting as well, assuming the creator can really do some interesting things. So there's room for that as well. But does just golf in general cut you off, similar to like, you know, with Toriko? A lot of people were cut off from it. It's like fighting for food, fuck that shit. So what's your thoughts on that? And based on the description of the synopsis of the first chapter, how do you feel? Do you want to check it out? Are you gonna wait? Again, I personally say just wait, especially if you have really, really high expectations. I definitely say just wait and see where this goes. And if you have read it, what is your thoughts on that first chapter? Was it too cliche? Did you love it? Did you hate it? How do you feel about the main character? How do you feel about his friend? There was also that captain as well. He's definitely going to be the one that ropes them in, and I'm imagining in order to get Robo, he's going to also have to take Tomoya, because Robo is going to be like, I don't really care about golf. I mean, I guess if you let my friend in, and that's the only way you'll let him in is for me to join, then fuck it. So maybe that could be the outcome of how they join the golf club in general. And yeah, your thoughts on this thus far with the first chapter. Again, nothing special, a lot of cliches, but it could be something in the future. I mean, Kuroko wasn't amazing from, you know, the very first chapter. It was interesting and exciting, but yeah, I'm kind of really curious to see in, 6 months from now where this manga will be, if it'll be canceled or it'll be interesting. I think Jump will give this guy time to flesh this out and see where it goes. But the golf thing is what I think is going to hold this series from being, extremely popular unless he really can pull some very exciting stuff very quickly. But that's all I have for this one. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. If you liked anything I had to say or enjoyed the video, drop me a like. I'd greatly appreciate it. And if you want more from me, make sure to subscribe, follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and stalk my Facebook to get more when the video ends. I'm FunNutWorld, and as always, people, have an awesome day.